Good morning, everybody. My name is Kim Tavares. I'm the Executive Director of the Miami University Alumni Association. I hope you all are enjoying Alumni Weekend and having a wonderful day. It's beautiful weather here in Oxford. For those of you joining us on the live stream, thank you for being here today as well. I want to go ahead and get right to the action at hand here. The main attraction is the State of the University update from Miami's 22nd president, President Greg Crawford.
Thank you. It's great to have everybody back for Alumni Weekend. It's one of Renate and I's favorite weekends of all time, just to see all the wonderful alumni visiting campus and all the wonderful stories about their time here at Miami. So welcome back, and we're going to go ahead and start. I thought I would talk about the state of the university here at Miami, but I want to do it through a lot of stories about our people, because it's wonderful to have this gorgeous campus and wonderful sidewalks and red brick buildings and such. But the real thing that makes Miami so special is its people. So I'm going to reflect a lot upon accomplishments of our faculty, staff, and students. But what I want to do is first talk a little bit about the economic impact of a university. It's a big organization, very complex. And when you look at Miami University, we just had a study done, and we bring in about $3.8 billion annually to this region. From our students and so forth on their spending and tuition, et cetera. And also we create about, when it's all said and done, about 52,000 jobs. And then all the Ohio universities, in fact, they bring in about $70 billion and create nearly 1 million jobs. But one of the interesting statistics that they track is how entrepreneurial a university is. And they look at students that graduate and how many companies they start and how they're involved with startup companies. And so our number for the state of, for our area is 1.1 billion, but for the whole state of Ohio, it's 1.7. So we really overperform in that area because of our entrepreneurial students and such. And so it's a very great statistic. And so starting off today, I'm going to talk a lot about our reputation, and I'm going to give you examples of students and such. But I'm going to start off with the reputation. And we've had a wonderful record year again this year in terms of applications and fundraising, and then in terms of our accomplishments of our faculty and staff. So first, I want to talk a little bit about this ranking system versus ratings. And so we just came out of a rating system. It's a new rating for universities. And then it's different from the rankings that we formerly used for many, many years. So the rankings, they take all the universities and they kind of pile them up. And no matter how close you are together, you could be in a cohort of 100 or so, and somebody could be 100th and somebody could be 200, but the scores are so close. And so this new ranking system actually buckets people such that somebody doesn't look like they're 100th and 200th with very little in between, and they're very similar. And so it's called the QS ranking systems. And for 2023, we were sort of assessed in those 7 areas, and Miami University came out as a 5-star campus. So that's the top ranking, the top rating, and there's 108 schools that have that rating out of 1,400. And so we're very pleased at sort of how we came out on this new rating system. And we like it a little bit better than the ranking system just because of the nature of it. Takes away sort of the, when everybody's kind of clustered up in the rankings. And then we had a wonderful, wonderful year with fellowships. And so this year, we had the second most fellowships ever on the national and international level with 26. There's a few examples. So Mona May Juwili, 19 graduate, got our first USAID Payne Fellowship. We've never had one before. It was the first time a Miamian won that. And that's for foreign service. And so she'll be working in foreign service for the year. And then a brand new fellowship program started this year from Ronald Reagan, a civics leadership fellow. And Levi Grimm won that. So he was in the inaugural group. And it's a big 1-year intense leadership program that he'll be involved with. And then Cameron Tiefenhaller, she won a Truman Scholar. That's one of the most competitive in the country. It's our second one in 6 years, and it's our 15th Truman Scholar since Miami started. And so it's really exciting to see that. And then one of the other areas that we look at is the Phi Beta Kappa, and that is an honorary society. It's the most prestigious in the country, and it's for arts and sciences students. And so this year we had a record-breaking year of 134 students inducted. And so it's been a very exciting year on the fellowship front. This brings great visibility and national, international attention to Miami University from the good work of our students. And Camber Hayes, Camber is a soccer standout here at Miami University on the women's soccer team. And she was just awarded the Arthur Ashe Award. So it's an international award for somebody in the sports and athletics that does a lot of sort of volunteerism, community service, and citizenry. And so she's the only one that's won it, the only one that's ever won it at Miami, the only one that's ever won it in the MAC conference. And so it was quite the accomplishment. And there was 1,500 nominations around the country from all D1 schools. And they all had an average GPA of 3.5 or higher. And so it was a great accomplishment. And we're so proud of all of Camber's accomplishments and all that she does in the community. And now, switching kind of over, that our faculty members here at Miami University are making a big impact. They make it in the community, they make it out there in the scholarship and their research, they make it in the classroom and teaching and so forth. And so we had a great year with all kinds of faculty accomplishments. The first one, some of you may know, Nancy Parkinson. She's a registered dietitian here at Miami and teaches dietitian. And she was named the Oxford Citizen of the Year for her work out there. She works across all the Talawanda schools on nutrition. And with Renata and I, we have boot camps where we work out with students. And she makes, with her students, they come over and they make all kinds of goodies and sort of nutrition bars for after the workout. And so we're really happy about Nancy's sort of the city award. One of the nominations letter said they call her Nancy, the nut of tradition. And so it's very cute, but she's well known everywhere. And then our entrepreneurship department, they're being honored there in Millette. And the entrepreneurship department, again this year, was ranked top 10 in the country. And so this has nearly been about 2 decades since they've kept that top 10 ranking. And then a few years ago, they won the NASDAQ award. And the NASDAQ award only goes to 1 school per year. And now we're in the midst of MIT, Cornell, Berkeley, Stanford, and some other great schools that do entrepreneurship. And so they've really had sustained excellence over the years. And the program is stronger than ever, creating lots of entrepreneurial thinkers that come out of Miami. And then Andrew Jones. Andrew Jones is in chemical and biochemical engineering, and he works on psychedelic drugs. Okay, so some of those things that were used in the 70s. But what they're using, that these magic mushrooms, they're actually using them for anxiety and depression today. And so he has a whole lab on this, and he invented a lot of new processes to create these sort of drugs for mental health. He has 13 patents or patent applications on this. And Andrew just won the Faculty Technology Commercialization Award in Ohio. And on the national level, he was named senior member to the National Academy of Inventors. And so he's doing a great job, and many undergraduates work with him in the laboratory. And then we have Pepper Stetler in the College of Creative Arts, and she's in art history. She's also the Associate Director of the Humanities Center here on campus. And her sort of expertise area and her new book coming out is on the history of IQ tests. But she, her daughter has Down syndrome, and she's been an advocate for people with disabilities, particularly advocating for creating a minimum wage. So right now, companies don't have to provide people with disabilities with a minimum wage, and there just isn't one. And so she's been out there working on that. And then her work has actually just recently appeared in the New York Times. And then we have Jan Taylor. I don't know if anybody's had Jan Taylor as a teacher, but she's been here many years. And Jan was just named a top 50 professor in business in the country. And so it's quite the accomplishment. She's had quite the career here. And I was giving a talk similar to this about a month ago, and it was interesting. I did not know, but as I put this slide up, somebody in the audience like, that's my mom, and her daughter was in the audience. And so it was very cute. And then Chris Howell. And Chris, we recruited Chris to come in to start the new Physician's Assistant program, which is now being called the Physician Associate program. The profession is going to change the name. So the PA program. And Chris came to us with 17 years experience as a practicing physician assistant. And he's also a retired military officer in the United States Air Force. And so one thing that was amazing about what Chris, he came in and starting from scratch, we hired people and so forth. And we just got the new program accredited. And so launching this summer is our first physician's assistant cohort. And there'll be 26 of them in the first year. And then next year we'll move to 40. And so we're very excited about that new program. And now supporting our mission. And so we're very sort of mission driven here at Miami University. and we call it student ready or student focused. And it really, really depends on sort of not just the great environment of academics, but all the supporting staff around our students. And so I wanted to bring you a few stories about some of our fantastic staff members. And so I love this picture. I made it myself. I figured out how to use it on PDF. But it's our information technology services. So it's a big group that does everything behind the scenes. And nobody even knows what they're doing until something goes wrong, right? But they're the second year in a row. They're a top place to work in the country for IT services. And so they're just a fantastic group that keeps everything rolling for us behind the scenes. And then Mohammed El-Kafarhi, he's a staff member works at the regional campuses, and he works with the nursing group. And what you see there is the medical simulator. So those are the medical mannequins or medical dummies, whatever you want to call them. And they work on it. But what he created, he invented an electronic medical system records keeper, like you have actually when you're in the offices with your doctor. But he created one for the simulation lab so that all of our students actually train on electronic medical records before they graduate. And so it's a very great invention that works with all the simulation mannequins so they can actually work and actually train how to record in those electronic medical record systems. And then Steve Large, I bring up Steve because he's in student life and is an assistant vice president for student health. And he does everything for our students' health. Their health and well-being is the most important thing. And oftentimes, if students don't stay and take a semester or two off and come back, that retention is often related to health and mental health. So Steve has done just an extraordinary job, and he got us through COVID in terms of managing the campus and all the different things that we had to do during the COVID pandemic. He's the most positive guy there is ever in this university. There could be an asteroid coming to Earth in 5 minutes. He's probably like, let's go play soccer. It's great. He's so positive, and the students just love him. And he brings that positive energy to campus and all of our students through student life. And then there's Seth Stewart in Alumni Relations. And Seth does a lot of the DE&I effort. You probably have met him, but a lot of the DE&I efforts in Alumni Relations. And he also has a social media feed on Black excellence for Black alumni. And so he's doing a great job at promoting all that our alums are doing. And then Lindsay Sparks, she's an assistant athletic director. And Lindsay's been fantastic about building camaraderie and actually growing audiences for our student athletes. And that she does a couple of different things, but the two big ones each year we have what's called One Miami Weekend. And so we try to have a doubleheader in basketball, then 2 hockey games. And what we have there is that everybody on campus is actually offered free admission to everything. And then we wrap around really a family-oriented time for them where we have the bouncy huts and everything else. And she's really grown that to record scales and sizes over the past few years. And she also works on the game called Love, Honors, Care, which is our women's basketball program. And they focus in on actually raising money and awareness in one big game per year around cancer and breast cancer. So she's doing a fantastic job at building that sort of spirit of Miami for some of the basketball and hockey games. And now I'm going to transition to sort of the bright and energetic students that are already here. And our students, before they graduate, many of them start their first company, they write their first novel, many have their own publication to start with. It's just pretty amazing to see what they have on their resume once they graduate as undergraduates. So I'm going to give you a few examples. So Valandria Smith-Lash has a great story. She just graduated this year. And Valandria is a speech and pathology major, a speech path and audiology major. And so she does that, but she's doing something different after graduation. When she was in high school, her mother came down with lupus. And as she would put it, that the medications for lupus actually wreaked havoc on her skin and her hair. And so she wanted to find a solution for that. So she started actually playing with and experimenting with shea butter and different sort of chemicals that go in it to see if you could really sort of improve your skin and your hair. And so she did that, and it worked. And then it started to grow with more people understanding what she was doing. And then she created a company called Course Culture, and she sells it online and manufactures it in Chicago. She's going to do this now post-graduation, and I'll tell you in a minute, she's going to be our first startup company in our incubator uptown. So she's staying around to start this company. So we're very excited to have her. And then Tommy Fowles, class of 23. Tommy's a sports analytics major. It's a big growing area for us, data analytics, and especially in the sports field. And Tommy also did all the statistics for the Miami baseball team. So he was their analytics person to keep track of all those great statistics, just like the movie Moneyball. Well, lo and behold, he's a national champion this year. And so they have a big sports analytic competition. They hold it at different universities each year. This year it was out in Texas at Baylor University. And you go through several different times. You get a problem about sports. You got to do all the statistics and the coding. And then you go to the next round and the next round. And Tommy came out number one. And so there's your national champion for sports analytics in the country. And so he's going to pursue that as a career. And then this is a wonderful story. So Sarah Ralston, she's a pre-K teacher. She just graduated, and she also did her master's degree at the same time. So she got that done in 4 years. And she had a passion. Sarah makes hamburgers. And so in her sorority, her sorority encouraged her. They're like, there's this burger competition in the nation. Why don't you just apply to it? So she did, and she competed locally in Ohio and won. She moved on to the sort of Midwest regions in Chicago and won. And then they sent her out to California to compete with everybody in the country. And she is number one. So she makes the best hamburgers in the country. And it's just her passion. I think she should go into business. They were so good. But she came over to Lewis Place and she had hamburgers with her mom came over, and we did it for all kinds of Miamians and her student friends. And they're just fantastic. So our students at Miami do it all. And then the men's glee club, just an extraordinary history and legacy here at Miami University. And they always go to great places and they show well internationally, etc. But this year they were actually invited to sing the 3 opening songs at Governor DeWine's inauguration in January. So it was just wonderful to see them in the state house and how much that just rang loud and clear of love and honor as they inaugurated the new governor. And then Prachi Wei Lee, she's a graduate student in chemistry, and her focus is on colorectal cancer. That's what she's studying. And she just recently won the Sigma Xi Award, but through the National Academy of Sciences. So that's a very prestigious research award that STEM students can receive. And so she received that, and she's just doing phenomenal things in the laboratory fighting cancer. And now transitioning to our alums, this is what's going to look like later today. It's going to be fun. It's a great parade. But our graduates are out there and they're doing great things. And so Miami is really known for leadership. And you just see it everywhere out there with our graduates when they take the helm of large organizations and such. And so you look at Miami has the most Fortune 500 and 1,000 CEOs in the country. We're always on that top of that list. And we have people running American Axle, Chipotle, Cintas, Duke Energy, Enterprise, Merck, Purina, and the list goes on. We also have many that we place in government. You're going to learn about one in a second. But the governor of the great state of Ohio, Mike DeWine, is here as a Miami alum. We also do a lot with our military officers, having extraordinary groups in ROTC, Army, Navy and the Marine Corps, and also the United States Air Force. And they do great things, and they get out there and lead. And we had last year, we had General Sharon Bannister speak to our class during commencement. And so just phenomenal in terms of the placements we get in the military. And then, of course, we have the Cradle of Coaches, and I'm going to show you a little bit about that. But the latest are Sean McVay and John Harbaugh there at the Ravens. And then we have all kinds of entrepreneurs here at Miami. About 20% of our students, independent upon their discipline, take an entrepreneurship course during their time at Miami. And so we have 11 that have created unicorn companies. So what that means is that you start from scratch, then you kind of go forward and create a $1 billion valuation. And so that's a lot of this is done. You see our students that train in the John Altman Institute for Entrepreneurship. They may have other majors, but they just are so passionate about it. And they get out there and start new businesses that really change society, human health, and humanity. So I'll give you a few examples. So Shefali Rosden Dougal, class of 1993, this year was nominated by Biden and confirmed by the Senate. and she is the new U.S. ambassador to the Netherlands. And behind her there is King Willem-Alexander, and he presented Shefali with her credentials to be the ambassador this year. So we're very happy for that one. And then we have Honorable Judge Dana Douglas, class of 97, and she was nominated by Biden and confirmed by the Senate, and she's in the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals in New Orleans. And she's the first Black woman judge to hold that position. And then we have Mike DeWine there, and Governor DeWine, 69, and his wife, Fran, in 71, and they do an amazing job. It's his second term, and Fran does a lot of work with reading and the science of reading. But this January, he was sworn in, and he was sworn in by no other than his son, who's on the Ohio Supreme Court and Miami alum, Pat DeWine. And it was so great to be here with the governor during this inauguration. And I was even in the picture with him. This is me right here. That really is me. So I got my head in the picture, yeah. And so it was just cool to see. That's when the Glee Club sang, and it was quite the Miami experience. And then we have Will Haygood, class of 76. Then, Will is just an extraordinary author. Everyone knows his work about the Butler and the movie that came out of that. And the last couple of years, he's written several books, and we've actually had them on our campus as our reads for all of campus. There was Tigerland, which was about East High School in Columbus, Ohio, which was in 1968 and 69. They thought after the assassinations of King and Kennedy that there was going to be, problems when students came back. And that class came back in that school, and they came back and won the state basketball championship, the state baseball championship, and the national debate championship. And so the book was about that high school. It was just phenomenal. And then just last year, he came out with Colorization, 100 Years of Black Film in a White World. And so those were two reads for us. And this year, he was honored with the Dayton Peace Prize, which is a big one, a big book prize for his work, actually through the Holbrook Distinguished Achievement Award. And so we get to see him receive that award in Dayton, which is a big deal and a big event. And he talks so fondly about Miami and his Miami experience. And he talks about his learning and his professors when he was up there. And it was just great. And he always says this, I love it. He says, I graduated magna cum laude at Miami. So just a really wonderful, great guy and fantastic author. And then Sean McVeigh, just very recently, we opened up and we inaugurated the statue of Sean in the Cradle of Coaches. Sean was the youngest coach to play in the Super Bowl, the youngest coach to win a Super Bowl, and the youngest coach ever to win NFL Coach of the Year. And also in his short time since 2017, not only were all those accomplishments, but he's also had incredible placements of his assistant coaches who are now head coaches at the University of Arizona, the Green Bay Packers, the Minnesota Vikings, the Cincinnati Bengals, and there's one more I'm forgetting, but he's doing a great job on his coaching tree. And so that was a lot of fun to have him and his family back. And that's a picture of him with the football team. And now I want to talk a little bit about what is very unique and distinctive about Miami University. And that is, we call it the teacher-scholar model. And it's very different than a lot of schools that the way they do it, but it's one in which we scale here and have it on a big scale. And so the couple of the elements of the teacher-scholar model is that we have our best scholars, the best researchers in the classroom, even as first-year students are getting exposed to them, which is unusual in higher ed. The second thing is that we want our faculty members to bring stuff into the classroom that's on their research, so to extend that learning beyond the textbook. And so they do quantitative research, qualitative research, interpretive research, longitudinal research, and they do that and expose students to that while they're here at Miami. We also do pedagogical research, and so the classroom can become the experiment where our faculty members will test a new idea out in teaching, and then if it works, then they actually disseminate that through publications. And then a lot of tangible outcomes, so students will publish papers, go to conferences and present presentations, and do things that most cases only graduate students do or postdocs. And so we're very proud of that. And then eventually, just being exposed to this teacher-scholar model, what we have is we actually form these sort of leader learners. They get out there and lead in the world, and they actually train and help and build other leaders as they're out there in their professions. So I'm going to give you a few examples of all these professors in different sort of colleges. So Jinwan Shi, she's an assistant professor in engineering and mechanical engineering. But what she does is she brings the interface of engineering together with psychology. And what's cool about her classes is that she brings together, like they study how the technology interface with the human dimension and the product dimension actually happens. So her students in her class are actually the experiments on this technology-human interface. And so they not only study it, but they live it as actually subjects in the classroom. So it's very unique. And then there's Stephen Kahn. He's a professor in history here. And then his course, he took Miami's history, and the students went out there and they took an object. So it could have been a stained glass window, or it might have been the sort of the buttons that you wore during the Vietnam War, the anti-Vietnam movement. And then each student then wrote a piece on that through 40 different chapters, and it became a book. So our students became published in a book. Then there's Anthony James, and he's in the Department of Family Science. And what he brings to family science and social work is he takes scientific methodologies and applies them in the social science realm. And so the students get exposed in the classroom to these really new research methodologies that are focused on science and transitioning them into the social science world. And then we have Riley Acton in economics, and she does a lot with microeconomics. But what her thing is she wants to expose students to real data sets. And so we have these big data sets that we actually buy into, and she exposes her students there. And what they work on is they look to see how consumers or people make choices with their money through these big data sets by using analytics and other types of methodologies to actually see how to predict what people will buy. And that's at the undergraduate level again. And then Michael Hatch, this is one of my favorite ones. Michael's in art, and his class is on management in art. And so what the students in this class do is they go out to local museum and galleries, and they look for artwork. They all have to find a couple of different things to pitch. So they find that artwork, and then they price it and figure it out, and they come back to Miami, and they pitch that to our museum director to buy. And so the ones that we wish, so we actually built our portfolio on things that our students found that we ultimately buy. And so it's a really great class to get that experience. And then there's Dave Berg, and he takes the teacher scholar model too far. And so he is a freshwater ecologist. He's just fantastic what he does. And he works in the field quite a lot, looking for things. But what's cool about his is that he's had 33 undergraduates actually publish papers from his classes and so forth. So they get out there and get a peer-reviewed publication before they graduate. And so those are a few examples of what's different about Miami. And then we do that at scale. So this happens across all of our classes. So it really brings a unique and kind of different education. And then solving our world challenges around research and scholarship and artistry. And so in addition to teaching great things in the classroom, our faculty and staff are out there actually raising money through grant funding, writing books, and doing different things, which really impact disciplines or society through their work and their research. So this is just a quick bar chart to show you our progress over the last 7 years in terms of research funding from external sources. And so we've done quite well, just keep increasing. And then we have 1 month left, and we're already at 35 million. And so our goal this year is 37 million. And what this money does is it supports a lot of our students, it supports postdocs, it supports faculty members, and then indirect costs come in to help us pay for the research. And then we can actually use that to invest in fields that can't be funded by some of the funding agencies. And so we do a lot of work with that funding to get out there and do more research with it. And one example is Cricket Meehan, and Cricket's sort of expertise is in K through 12 mental health, and she's a director of a center here at Miami. And this year, Cricket's brought in more than $10 million in research funding, which is incredible, but also equally important that it was recognized by the state of Ohio how our work in mental health is impacting K through 12 in the positive ways. And so what they did is they named Miami University as a center of excellence in that area. And there's only one school can get that in the state, And so Miami University is your mental health center of excellence for K through 12 education. So we're very excited about that. And then on our regional campuses, this was a new grant that came in through the Butler Commissioners, $8 million. And then here you got Randy Thomas, which is a vice president here for basically all of our external work. You have Andy Durajaya in the middle, which is he's the vice president at the regional campuses. And then John Graff is the president of Butler Tech. It's a technology school here for high school students in our area in Butler County. And so together actually won an $8 million award to create a manufacturing, training, education, and research facility on our Hamilton campus. And so we'll be getting started that very soon. And then Katie Del Rio Zonas in biology. She just was awarded a multi-million-dollar National Institute of Health grant. And her research is amazing. And so she works on retinal diseases. And so the one that 10% of the population eventually gets is called macular degeneration. And so it's sort of a thinning of the retina that happens. Well, she's working with these little salamanders, they call them newts, and these newts are pretty amazing. You can poke their cornea, you can poke their retina, and then in about 2 or 3 weeks, they fully grow back. And so what this is a stem cell process that if we can learn how that works in these little salamanders, could we actually use that in human beings? And so she's using that animal model for that reason. So it's really extraordinary research. And then there's Stephen Norris, and Stephen's a professor of Russian history. And there was a recent film you might have watched. It's called Stalingrad, and it was written by Fedor Budacek. And so that particular film was about World War II and Stalingrad. Well, Stephen wrote a book about that film and how that film contextualized the meaning of World War II in Russia. And our Russian here at Miami has been extraordinary for years, and we have a real strength here in that area. So doing a great job on all the research and everything that's going on. And then I'm going to kind of pivot now and talk about the campus changes. And so we really put a lot of work in the last few years in infrastructure here at Miami University to have the best facilities that will promote collaboration, cooperation, partnerships with industries, and also transdisciplinary work. Can we create ways in which we break down academic silos and bring people together to solve big world problems that could otherwise not be solved by a single discipline alone? So our first one here is College at Elm, and College at Elm is a new business incubator. It's right behind, formerly known as Ox College, which is the community arts center there. And we raised money through the Butler County Commissioners, the state of Ohio, Jobs Ohio, many generous alums. And then Lee and Rosemary Fisher came in with the naming gift at the end to make this all happen. And so it's called the Lee and Rosemary Fisher Innovation College at Elm. And the building is fantastic. It has a warehouse effect, but it had great bones. It was about 100 years old. And so that's all been finished in February, and new companies are moving in. So if you're a startup company and you want to come in, you'll have access to rapid prototyping, true functional prototyping, and also we have a new anchor tenant coming in, which will take about 20% of the space, and it's called the Fisher Group. And what they do is they manufacture. He's a retired engineer that created a very successful manufacturing company. He's hired Miami students, and the success of that program and his hiring made him want to be here near our campus. So what's unique and distinctive about this is that we not only have the ability to start new companies, but all the way to the end, which is very unique in this country, that you can even manufacture it in this facility. So that's very exciting. And I think the neat thing is, it's just right across the street to the Community Arts Center, which is the former Ox College. And we allow the community to use that for sort of no cost per year. And it's full of also arts entrepreneurs on the top floor. So all those former dorm rooms are now filled by architects and musicians and photographers, sculptors, painters, paper makers, and they're entrepreneurs and sole proprietors. So what we want to do is actually combine the technology of the Lee and Rosemary Fisher College at Elm with all those artists and artisans and creatives across the street in the Community Arts Center. So it's a very exciting effort, and you can see the space is super cool. And there's a rooftop on it that you can go out on that for events, and you can see all of Oxford. So it's very beautiful. And then if you have a chance, or maybe you had the chance today, to actually go to our Clinical Health Science and Wellness building, which is over there by Goggin. And so a few years ago, we had such a sort of wonderful nursing program on the regional campuses. And then that was so successful that we wanted to bring that to Oxford. There's a shortage of nurses, then even a bigger shortage after COVID. And so we brought that to Oxford. And in a short 4 years, the nursing program at Miami University has become the most competitive program to get into, with 2,500 applications for 130 spots. And so it's just extraordinary. They're going to go in there. And then our really well-known program in speech pathology and audiology will be moving in there. And then our new physician's assistant, which we call the physician's associate program, will be moving in there. But in addition, we have our student life, mental health and wellness and counseling moving in there for our students. We have TriHealth, our big partner that takes care of our student health care, moving in there. And then also we have a little clinic around speech and hearing here in Oxford, which services about 1,000 Oxford citizens per year. They'll be moving in there. So we cross boundaries by having different departments from different colleges, industry partner coming in, and actually a real clinic that'll be moving in there along with all of our student health. So we're very excited about that effort. And then behind engineering on Talawanda is really coming along quickly. It'll be done in December. And that's the Rick McVeigh Data Sciences Building. And Rick was a graduate here in the 80s, and he was a golfer here at Miami University. And he went off in the world and started market access in New York City, an investment company, and has done very well. So he supported the building of this building and the vision to create something here that's truly dynamic and different at Miami University. And so computer science will be moving in here with software engineering. We'll also have the Department of Statistics moving in, and then our brand new degree program called Emerging Technology, Business and Design, and they'll be moving in there along with some centers and institutes. And so it's going to bring all those three departments from three different colleges together to cross boundaries and to actually train in this world of big data, artificial intelligence, cybersecurity, and analytics. And so we're very excited about that launch in December. And then next up, if you've ever been in Bachelor Hall, that'll be our next project. We're through our planning stages now. This will be focused on the humanities and media, journalism, and film. But what's shown here, if you ever looked at Bachelor Hall, there's that big open spot in the middle that nobody goes to anymore. And so as we renovate the building, we'll cap that atrium off, and there'll be this big interactive collaborative space for our humanities and our MGF program. And so we're very excited about that next steps, which will begin in earnest probably later this summer. And then next up after that will be our Center for Performing Arts. And one of the elements of our Center for Performing Arts is that students that come here to study the arts, music, theater, etc., they often combine it with entrepreneurship or business. And so what we're going to create here is this wide open space for our students with open galleries and just different ways to interact. So our theater majors will work with small companies and create commercials for cheap for them. Our theater majors already, they're patients for our nursing students. So they train how to be patients. So it's very cool. And so we'll be doing a lot more of that in this open gallery setting. And so we're very excited about the future of what that Center for Performing Arts will become in a very entrepreneurial way. And then I'm going to shift gears here to sustaining our future through our sustainability efforts. And here's some faculty and staff that have been driving this in many ways. And we're really driving to have a campus that's carbon neutral. And so here's I'm going to go over here and look at this, but here's kind of our, this axis here would be our carbon footprint. And then down there is a year. And so in this green area that you see here, that is from where we started investing to today's present time. And you can see that our carbon footprint through our geothermal investments has already decreased by a factor of 2. So it's 50% lower than it ever was. And we saved just millions of dollars per year through this investment. And so the idea is how do we take it to the next level and drive it down to creating no carbon through all that we do here at Miami and the energy and the resources that we need. And so the next step will be to finish off our geothermal, and we'll replace anything that has to do with steam with hot water, and that's ongoing now. And then we'll move into solar to kind of close it off, and biogas. And so we have 2 models. We want to try to be there sooner if we can. We have a 2040 model to be carbon neutral, and then we have a 2050 model to be carbon neutral. So it's very exciting how we've done this. And it was kind of a hidden jewel here. So geothermal is interesting. You use the ground as a battery. So in the summer, you take the heat and you stick it in the ground. In the winter, you take the heat out of the ground and warm up the building. And so it's really intriguing. But the problem is that nobody sees it. And so if you go to another campus and you see some solar cells, you're like, oh, wow, it's sustainable. But we have all this stuff underground in our ponds that does this. And so now we have signs up because this generation is really into this. So we move them around our tours and we talk about geothermal. But we're actually doing that. And then the government, the Biden administration, found out what we're doing. And so what they did is they pulled together schools that were top in this area in excellence of sustainability. And they created this cohort of catalyzing universities that are most emphasizing climate action through their efforts in reducing their carbon footprint. And so there's a few schools. It's a great cohort to be in. And what we do is we share best practices, ideas, and we'll be having conferences in the future so that everybody in the country, all the other 4,000 plus universities, can learn what we're doing. And then engaging our neighbors. We do a lot with our local community and beyond through partnerships and service and so forth. This is a cool program. It's called Work Plus. And so it's really intriguing because in higher ed, everyone's talking about a debt-free education. That's fine, but what this provides is not just a debt-free education, but a free education. So we have 15 company partners in Butler County. Students come in and they apply full-time to our regional campuses. They get accepted, and then they interview with one of our partner companies. The partner company then accepts them as a part-time employee. The salaries that they get working 20 to 24 hours per week is about $16 to $22 per hour, depending on the company. And they pay for the students' tuition. So they get pocket money and they're getting a free tuition kind of scholarship from the company, full tuition. In addition, during the winter term and summer, they can actually work full-time to even make more money. So students graduate, they have a part-time salary, they actually tuition free because it's paid for, and then they actually graduate with not just a great Miami degree, but a 4-year industry resume. And what's cool about this program that started a few years ago is it's not just free education, it's not just a great resume, but our students as part-time workers are getting moved up and promoted into management during their time. And so they just really value sort of the Miami University student who's not just great in their discipline, but they have great breadth and can really work across the human dimension. So we love this. It was, Governor loved the idea, and so he signed it into law so that other schools could copy this. And so it's House Bill 614, so if you want to look it up, it's pretty neat. So that's going well. The next thing at the regionals, what we've done, it's our very first year with this, but we have students in both 2 school systems in Middletown and Hamilton. And what they do is they come in as juniors and they take college courses, and then we shuffle them back to their high schools in the afternoon so they can get to their sporting events, their band events, their clubs, all that stuff that they do in high school. But what they do is after 2 years, they graduate here from Miami University with an associate's degree and their high school diploma. And it's completely free. It's all paid for through what's called the College Credit Plus program in the state of Ohio. So they get 2 years of college free, and they actually have a big head start on college because they're 18 years old with 2 years already completed. So we're very excited about that, and this program will grow from 2 school systems to 6 in the coming fall. And then just recently, on our Middletown campus, we know we have to partner more. And we have a great relationship with Cincinnati State and President Monica Posey. And so Cincinnati State is going to co-occupy space on the Miami Hamilton campus, and such that what we'll have is we'll have the most clear, crystal clear pathways between community college credit and jumping into a 4-year degree option at Miami University. And so this is very unique that we cohabitate space with the community colleges on one of our regional campuses. And then Amazon selected Miami University as a career choice program. And so a handful of schools get that. So Amazon employees can come to Miami University and finish their degree or get a degree or expand their degree or get a graduate degree now. And so it's a wonderful partnership that just created here at Miami. And then we do a lot with outreach. And Joanna Hahn there from engineering is the director of the K through 12 outreach programs. But one that's really picked up steam and interest and a lot of students coming to participate is we have a robotics competition now in Millett Hall. So the whole basketball court turns into these high school teams that have built robots that compete on all different types of scales and games that they have to play, and there's winners. And many of those students actually then want to be STEM students and going to engineering. And so we use this kind of outreach as not just helping them get their robots done, but we also then recruit them to Miami University because they have such a great experience here on campus. And partnerships. And so there's that old adage that the whole is better or more than the sum of the parts. And so we've been working with some big companies and some big partners to really develop kind of partnerships that actually both enhance our brand and also enhance what they're looking for. And so here's a few examples. So Eli Lilly in Indianapolis just recently launched the Eli Lilly Leadership Program here in engineering, and they're focused on information technology. So students form cohorts as first years all the way through their senior and graduating year, and they not just do their engineering projects, but they also are part of this Leadership Institute funded by Eli Lilly. So it's very exciting, and it's had a lot of success. Stryker, the big medical company in Kalamazoo, Michigan, we have a lot of Miamians there. They love our graduates, including the president of one of the divisions is a Miamian. And they've come in, and if you've been at the Clinical Health Sciences building or go there, you'll see it looks a little bit like a Stryker commercial inside, but they provided all this great technology for us. And so you can go in there and see that. But in addition, they've done what's really cool is that they were having trouble finding STEM and business talent graduates. And so they needed to actually draw employees from different areas for new hires. And so they funded our Farmer School of Business to create a medical sales certificate program so that somebody in any degree could take that and then actually be hired by Stryker. And so that was a way to actually broaden their pool of applicants and also their workforce that actually had to work in this really high-tech field of medical sales. And then Cleveland Clinic, it's one or two in the world in terms of a healthcare system, and we actually partner with them, and we do their data science analytics training for their employees, their doctors, nurses, and so forth. And so it's really kind of a cool online certificate program that we created. And then coming soon is Intel. They're coming to Columbus area. They're going to spend $20 billion on the investment, and that's just the first stage. And so they're out and about trying to find great talent. They just recently moved a lot of cohort from their Arizona Chandler facility here to get this going. And Intel and their leadership team came to Miami and to talk about partnerships. It was just fantastic. But at the end of the day, they gave a talk about Intel, and we were over there at the Farmer School of Business where there's 500 seats in the big auditorium, and our students showed up, and it was standing room only. And so they were really impressed with what we're doing here, and they're really impressed with the interest in Intel from Miami University. And then this is cool. So finally, we're going to get an Amtrak station in Oxford. And so it's going to go from Cincinnati to Oxford, and then it's going to go 2 stops, and then you're in Indianapolis, and then 4 more stops, and you're in Chicago. So we put together the funding to actually build the platform, and so we're really excited about that. And that's going to, I think we have a lot of students from Chicagoland and Indianapolis, and so we're pretty excited about all that, what's going on there. I think it's going to help with recruiting and so forth as this train station gets built, and then we get actually an Amtrak train coming through our area. And then finally, inspiring our donors. And we just started this year a campaign to raise $1 billion. And the campaign started off as the silent phase in 2016. And the silent phase, it was the worst kept secret ever because everyone knows we're raising money all the time. And so at one point, which we're at now, when we got to about the $600 million mark, we go public with it to kind of close it out in the next few years. And so far, so good. This past calendar year, we had our first $100 million year in fundraising. in the history of the institution. And so this is where we're at so far. And you can see about 41% or $250 million raised so far goes to scholarships. It's our top priority. And then other pillars that I spoke about, entrepreneurship and business, clinical health sciences, and data sciences are also other pillars we're kind of raising money for. But if you look at this overall, 85% of our campaign to date has raised money for academics. And so we have a big focus on the academics front. And this was great. This was the incubator that I talked about. And Lee and Rosemary Fisher from Oxford did the naming gift for the building. And it was just a wonderful sort of group to have there as we open this facility in February. You can see a lot of state legislatures there. You can see some of our entrepreneurs there. And it was just exciting. It was something that we really wanted to do here. And it all came together and we kind of made it happen. So this was a big deal on the fundraising front. And then on our museum, with all that great art there, Richard and Carol Cox came in and named the museum the Richard and Carol Cox Art Museum. And so we're really excited about that gift. And they started giving art and donating to the university in the 1983 timeframe. And they're not alums. And so they just warmed up to Miami, and they were always close to the institution and very passionate about art. And so we're very fortunate to get that naming on the Art Museum. And then graduating champions. This is my last one, I'm sorry. So you get excited sometimes, you forget where you're at. But on graduating champions is our athletic teams. And there was always, it's a great saying that our AD says, David Saylor, that, you know, graduate with a great Miami diploma in one hand and a championship ring on the other. And, you know, that's what we do here at Miami. And our placement last year for students after they graduated was 100% of our student athletes. The retention, the graduation rates are always higher than ours of the general population. And it's been 30 some semesters in a row where our student athletes have had a cumulative grade point average of above a 3.0. And so they're just extraordinary, you know, not just in the classroom, but also everything else that they do on the sports through competition. And one of the greatest things that happened 3 times in a row these past few years is that there's a Mid-American Conference Award, and it's called the Carol Cartwright Award. And it's not for, we have an award for who has the best competition and who does the best in all the sports, men's and women's. We have those awards too. But this one's for the university that has the student athletes that are phenomenal in competition, extraordinary in the classroom, and citizens of their community through volunteerism. And so we won that. And it's never happened before, but 3 years in a row. It's never happened before in the MAC to ever win it 2 in a row. And so we won that 3 times in a row. So we're very excited about that. And then this spring, softball for the 4th year in a row, we're MAC champions. And I'm going to say something today because I can today. But we went into the tournament, in the NCAA tournament, and we had a win. Then we actually played, we had to play 2 more games against Northwestern and beat them twice. And they only had to beat us once. And, you know, I can't complain about the umpires at the games because I'll get in trouble. But I'm going to complain here. And so I don't know if you see this on ESPN, but bases were loaded. And it was the last inning, and we were down by 1 run. And then there was an infield hit. They threw it home to get the force out, and our player came. It was very close, but the Northwestern catcher's foot was off the plate. And so they reviewed it, but they didn't overturn it. And so we ended up losing the game. We would have had tied the game and then had bases loaded. And so I'm still angry about that, but that's okay. I think I get fined for that if I do it at the game. So I'm going to do it here. And then men's swimming and dive won their 3rd MAC championship in a row. So sustained excellence there. And then this year was a pretty exciting time for synchronized skating. And if you've been here for a long time, you know how good that program is. But our collegiate synchro team won the national championship this year. And it's the 21st time they've won it. And so Miami's dominated in that field. We had extraordinary coaching and just extraordinary student athletes that come to Miami to skate. And then the senior team, which is the one that competes on the international scale, we got 6th place this year. And it's the 2nd year in a row. So that's with everybody. And we compete as a university, but in the international scale, the professionals are in it as well. And so what the coolest thing was this year, it was at Lake Placid, New York, where the famous Olympics were, for the hockey team when they skated. And it was just extraordinary. You go there, and it was probably the closest I've ever been to like an international Olympic kind of competition. But the Dutch were there, the Finns were there, the Russians, the Swedes were all there. And then when Miami came out, it was awesome. It just broke off and USA, USA, USA. So it was just so different than being in a game where it's like go Redhawks to where you're going USA, USA, USA. So they did an extraordinary job. They were in first place for a while, then we kind of slipped to sixth, but they just had an extraordinary year. And the coaching of that team is just unbelievable. So wonderful athletes. And so I'm going to end it there. We have the new campaign coming out. It's called For Love, for Honor, for Those Who Will. And as I mentioned earlier, we're about $600 million in. And so a very exciting time for Miami. And you can kind of see all the different momentum and the new things that we have going on campus to really advance the mission, purpose, and values of this great institution that's been around for more than 200 years. So thank you all for coming back. It's great to see you all. And I think they're going to turn something off, and I'll take any questions that you might have. So thank you, and thanks for being back to campus.
Thank you so much. Thank you, President Crawford. Thank you for those being here today, those of you watching live online, and I hope you will come back to campus if you're not already here. See us for homecoming on October 21st to see all the exciting things happening on campus. Love and honor.